Good afternoon, everybody. It's Sunday, the 22nd of June, and it is 12:30 here in South Africa, which means it is time for another 2 hours of live at the waterholing. Very warm welcome to everybody, to all our regular viewers, and if any of you are joining us for the first time, I hope you enjoy the next 2 hours. My name is Ben. I will be with you providing you hopefully some interesting and useful commentary about what we are seeing. And I am live and interactive, so please do send in questions and comments about anything you see or want to know about with regard to conservation and ecology and wildlife, and hopefully I'll be able to answer some of those questions for you. But we've started out at Old Donyo Lodge up in Kenya with our Africam camera there, one of our favorite and most lucrative cameras. Always interesting stuff going on. Often get multiple different species coming down for a drink, which is always nice to see. A couple of elephant bulls, a couple of zebras, and a couple of very brave warthogs. I'm going to have a drink under the watchful gaze of these two elephants. The one on the left seems slightly unsure, waving his trunk around, not sure if he likes these little things sneaking up on him. But I've noticed recently the elephants here have been a lot more tolerant of other animals drinking the same time as them, but we have just come out of the wet season in East Africa. As you can see, plenty of clouds still in the sky, so likelihood is there's plenty of water around. Not that this area has any perennial water sources, one of the reasons why this dam is so popular, but perhaps with the environmental conditions just taking the edge off the elephant's temper. It's a little bit cloudy here in the Lowveld today, but forecast is that it will clear up by later this afternoon, which I'm crossing fingers for. I have a stargazing appointment this evening with telescopes and some guests in the Hoedspruit area, and I've just come back from two very enjoyable nights at Thornybush, where I was doing some training for some of the guides there. I had last night to myself, which I spent taking photographs of one of my favourite areas of the sky, known as the Fighting Dragons of Ara, constellation of Ara the Altar, with these great swirling dust clouds sort of conjoining in the middle, almost like two elephant trunks touching up in the sky. Looking forward to getting that one edited and out, but I fully intend to get a lot more data before we get to that point. But a few good afternoons rolling in. Good afternoon, Joanne Mello. Lovely to hear from you as always. Penelope Kenyon as well. Greeting myself. The Zoomies in control of these cameras. I have got Mika in my ear as well, helping me navigate. And Penelope, you're saying it's a beautiful sunny day in northern coast of KwaZulu-Natal, 25 degrees. Lovely. And as you say, first day of winter. Yesterday was the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, longest day if you're in the northern hemisphere, of course. So we are officially in the midst of winter now. Afternoon to Dark Main Lover as well. Jive Bunny joining us from the southwest of England. Yes, happy Sunday fun day to you, Darkmane lover, as well. Harriet Hodgkin joining us from a wet and wintry Cape Town. Well, I'm sorry to hear that the weather is not so nice down there. Greetings to Mercedes Bean as well. And Angelo Rizzo from a scorching hot and humid Illinois. Nice to know that we've got some friends from the other side of the pond joining us as well. And so hopefully we're going to have a great day. Hoping for some interesting interactions, maybe some interesting bird life. I know some of you are keeping bird lists based on what we do get to see on these cameras. And you never know what else might come a-calling. A couple of days ago, but it must have been What are we today? Sunday. Must be about Tuesday or Wednesday. We had a beautiful leopard having a drink at Rosie's camp. Only the second or third time we've had a leopard grace us with its presence during one of my live at the waterhole stints. And of course, very exciting for me. On Thursday, I finally saw the great famous 1 ton elephant bull here at Old Onyo. So maybe if we're lucky, he'll rock up as well. Hello, Martina Schmidt. Wishing us all a beautiful Sunday. Right back at you, Martina. I hope you're all having a very nice, relaxing, and chilled Sunday afternoon. Maybe a Sunday roast in the offing, or an afternoon in the garden, maybe on the sofa watching some sport, or whatever you choose to do, but I hope it is a good one. Ambient sound seems to be particularly good today. I'm hearing all the water splashes and everything. It's lovely to have the sounds of the bush. For a long time, for whatever reason, technical hiccups, I didn't have any sound on the cameras and was just watching them as if they were muted. So this is lovely to hear all the water dripping down from these elephants drinking. So it's so nice to see all the other animals being allowed to drink at the same time as the elephants. They can, of course, be somewhat cantankerous around water. I'd say more so during the drier months where they become a little more protective. It looks like very little animosity between them and these other things that are trying to also quench their thirst. Lots of greetings coming in today. Thank you so much, everybody. Wild at heart, saying hi from a cold and wet Hermanus in the Western Cape. Angela Rizzo, you are most welcome for the shout out, and I'm glad you could join us. Catherine from a nice and hot Germany, I should hope so, enjoying the height of the German summer. And Jive Bunny, you're saying well done for finding 1 ton. Yes, it's been a long time coming, Jive Bunny. I hear all this talk about this famed elephant. Was beginning to believe he was some sort of mythical creature, but very happy to have finally got a glimpse of him, and so hopefully he will return even more regularly. Good afternoon to Canine Girl as well. Looking forward to some great sightings. Well, this isn't a bad way to start. It is lovely to have the zebras in the foreground, that contrasting pattern against the great grey giants behind them. Suzette, you're saying the zebbies are being careful of the elephants. They are. They'll be keeping a wary eye on them, but you can see there's plenty coming in. Excuse me. We'll have to see at what point the elephants decide this is it. There we go. At that point, that's slightly too many now, and just don't invade my personal space. Just a little head nudge. It's quite an intimidating head nudge, but you can see more and more zebra flooding in from the back as well. If we're going to reach a tipping point at some point, or maybe we're going to decide this is a little bit too chaotic now. So it's going to chase away the ones coming in. Look at the way all the other zebras are taking advantage of one less. Yep. Flailing hooves. Great clouds of dust. It's a rather defensive posture that elephant at the background has taken, head up. He's not very happy with all these zebras, but I think it might be a question of numbers here, my friend.
I feel it is a rosetted morning for us. So yes, let's see what we can find.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild. Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions,
Animals rely on their senses.
share your thoughts, and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
To its conclusion. But we will wait and see. Maybe we get lucky and there's some more activity. See more and more greetings flooding in. JD's looking forward to a fun-filled Sunday. And Mr. Elemental saying good evening from a dark and wet Perth in Western Australia. Yes, it must be rather late for you there. Ivan from North Carolina, you want to know, are elephants the only animals that experience must? So must, spelled M-U-S-T-H, is I suppose the easiest way to call it would be the reproductive state that male elephants enter into throughout the year. Raised levels of testosterone and a renewed interest in finding members of the opposite sex. Normally, you will see evidence of it by the flowing temporal glands on the side of the elephant's head, in strong must, in heavy must. You'll also see the penile sheath dripping from urine from the penis within. Often will stain the insides of the back legs, and they can lose tens of litres of water a day with those secretions coming out of their bodies. So it is important that they do drink regularly during that must period, which can last for weeks and even months. For a proper mature elephant bull, they could stay in must potentially for even half of the year. But in terms of other animals that go into must, well, officially not really, because must is a word that is specifically used for elephants, but there are plenty of other animals that go into reproductive status, certainly every year, being controlled by the length of daylight things, the circadian rhythms, and their particular glands within the brain, with sort of at the back of the eye that monitors these lengths and changes of daylight, which promotes hormonal changes in the body. One that sort of sprang to mind that has an obvious reproductive state, strangely enough, is an ostrich. Male ostriches during the breeding season also exhibit some characteristic um, things that you can see. So their beaks go a very, very bright red color, and all the skin on the front of their legs, kind of their shins, also becomes a very vivid pinky red color. Which is a sign that they're in full reproductive mode, and they do become a lot more aggressive. Please be careful of ostriches. They are capable of doing some severe damage with those strong legs and big claws. So do be vigilant around ostriches with particularly red legs. Darkmane lover, enjoying seeing the elephants, and Jive Bunny, you're referring to Oldonu as the bodybuilder's bar, which apparently is something that Ralph came up with. I rather like that. Jade Ingrid Ludlow, what does an elephant see when a human sees white? Jane, excellent question. I would imagine they also see white. Our eyes are relatively similar. We see, we believe, a little bit more color at a wider range of colors than elephants do. But white is basically just a mixture of all the other colors of light. So I would assume that white to us is white to an elephant as well. They can see in low light conditions better than we can. They have more rod receptors in their eyes, which pick up low light conditions. They also have that reflective layer at the back of the retina, the tapetum lucidum, nowhere near as well as established as things like lions and leopards and bush babies and other nocturnal animals. But if please don't, but if you were ever to shine a spotlight in the eyes or in the face of an elephant, or maybe you're driving at night and you come across elephants, you'll see there is a small reflection from the eyes, but nowhere near as pronounced as some of the others. Hello to Sandy Franklin 69 as well, also joining us. Glad you were able to make time for us today. Leopard Lover, you're saying that Gary Dem had 4 cheetahs yesterday and 2 the previous day. I was not privy to this information, being away doing some other work, but that is amazing news and brilliant. The cheetahs are venturing into the Sabi Sands again. Well, they're around, but there are just not very many of them. So certainly in all my time um, doing drives for Wild Earth in that area, I can only recall ever seeing 1 cheetah. Of course, we used to see them quite regularly and do see them quite regularly at Mabulla. But those cheetahs don't have too much to worry about. Very few leopards there in comparison. Lions restricted to a different area of the reserve. And no spotted hyenas to worry about on Mabulla. So the cheetahs there have a lot simpler life. These ones in the sands have to share their area with at least 3 other stronger and potentially more formidable foes. So brilliant that some have been seen recently. I wonder if they've come down from the north. Normally we get a few more cheetahs north of the sands because it's more open, better habitat for them, but perhaps with the water drying up, they are making their way from the less well-populated areas down into the Sabi Sands, where there are an awful lot of artificial water points, which attracts game and also provides easy water for the cheetah as well. So great to know, and let's hope that they hang around. was going back to those questions about eyes from Jane Ludlow. Um, Eyes are pretty amazing in the animal kingdom, and there are quite a few animals that are well known for having amazing eyes. We've got about 200,000 visual receptors in our eyes, whereas eagles and raptors, hawks, vultures, they can have over 1 million visual receptors in their eyes. It would be like us having a pair of binoculars surgically attached, but at least potentially 5 or 6 times better than our eyesight, and there are analogies suggesting that these animals would be able to read a newspaper from a kilometer up in the sky. I'm not sure if anyone's ever tested that theory, but if that is the case, it just puts in to show um, how amazing these eyes are in the raptors. But if you're looking for camouflaged prey from high up, very important you have excellent resolution. Just look at the size of a bird's eye compared to the rest of its head. It's basically two flying eyeballs with a little brain in the middle and a beak at the front. In our eyes, we don't give them a lot of credit for what they can do as well. We can see a rabbit flick its ears from about 80 to 100 meters away, and that itself is pretty impressive. All right, let's head over to the Hoodspray Endangered Species Centre and catch up, I assume, with our little cheetah cubbies. Oh, it's nap time for the cheetahs. Oh, they're getting big, but they are not losing any cuteness, that is for sure. I see Penelope Kenyon a little bit earlier said that Tammy's cheetah cubs are now eating solids. Great to know that they are growing up. Their digestive systems are, I'd say evolving is the wrong word. What's the word I want there? Are developing. There we go. And they're getting some good protein in there, which will accentuate their growth rate, hopefully.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. Myself, I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
Lady Macbeth, you have pointed out to me that elephants do not have a tapetum lucidum, as I just said. And Lady Macbeth, having just double checked, you are absolutely correct. I've done what many of us do, and I made an assumption when I see reflection in the elephant's light, just assuming, well, reflection in their eyes, assuming that they just had a small layer of crystals there. But as you correctly pointed out, it seems they do not. And when you do see the shine from an elephant's eye in a spotlight, it is more likely to just be a reflection from the blood vessels, a little bit like the way we get red eye in flash photography sometimes. They've obviously got a lot of oxygen-rich blood supplying that eye to allow it to interpret the world. So thank you for pointing that one out, Lady Macbeth. Every day is a school day, and I shall commit that one to memory. So my apologies for leading you up the garden path a little earlier on that one. It just goes to show you can't make assumptions. Melanistic marble, it's a new name for me. Welcome. Thank you for your point here that saying that these cheetah cubs are gorgeous. And that you hope that they get to spend at least some of their lives in the wild. Melanistic marble, I'm sure we all do as well. I'm not sure what fate is in store for these four, but how amazing would it be if they could indeed be released to live a natural and hopefully long life. Oh, I've just seen I've got a Dacre walking past my window. Nice to see animals on the screen and outside the window. JD's, you're also saying you love their little facial lines. Irene, as far as I know, all four cubs are present and correct. It's a little bit difficult to tell from this view as to how many heads and bodies are there. They're all sort of blending into one another. But as far as I'm aware, all four are still going strong. Look at those little faces. Well, there's definitely three there. If there is one in the middle, I think there is one stretched out as well. Lovely to see them with their paws placed upon one another. Leopard lover, this is an interesting one, and one that I'm afraid I don't know the official answer for, but you're saying that you've heard that people who coming on trips like this can go to rescue places where they're allowed to actually physically interact and touch the animals. Um, and you're not sure whether this is legal. Um, to be honest, Leopard lover, I would have to delve into what the, dare I say, constitution is on that. Certainly, the general consensus is look but don't touch in this situation, and you would not be able to do so at any of the places that I know of. But I do remember about 20 years ago, my first year that I came here, because I knew nothing better, I did go to a place which was completely legitimate, where you could actually interact with lion cubs. Which at the time I thought was amazing. You get to touch them, but in hindsight, I now know that that is a very bad idea. And there is not much hope for those youngsters when they grow up. And of course, whether that leads to the definitely illegal canned hunting trade, of course. Um, so I don't know of any places now where you can physically interact with these sorts of animals in a sort of a petting zoo sense. Nor do I know if it's officially illegal, but it is certainly frowned upon. Kaz, no, as far as I know, we haven't been officially told the sexes of these cubs. I've also wondered that. I think we are waiting for Hesk to give us the official sex ratio there. So I don't know. We keep looking, but there's a lot of fur in the way, and it's rather difficult to know for sure. Catherine, you're saying you prefer to see them in the wild where you can see natural behavior. Absolutely. I don't think many people would disagree with you there. I think Lenny's sent through something as well, which I assume is a release from Hess directly, saying when the time is ready, Hess will release the cubs to a large fenced reserve. And then eventually they will probably split depending on the sex ratio, of course. Females cheetahs are going to be solitary in their adult life, whereas the males will generally stay together, forming a coalition. Where that reserve will be, of course, I doubt will have been decided yet. Interesting. I would imagine they'd choose one that doesn't have lions, just to try and help the population and the gene pool. But yeah, those decisions will be made in-house. Mercedes-Benz, you were saying Mum was having some me time over there by the fence, but looks like she's come over. Just make sure everybody is doing okay. Very proud mother. Canine girl, you're also saying that you'd much prefer to see them in the wild. Absolutely. Zoos and these sorts of, well, this is a bit different from a zoo, of course. This is a rehabilitation centre for rescued animals and animals that have not had the same opportunity. I have to admit, I've been to various zoos over the years because I enjoy seeing animals, but it is just not the same. I have been, or what my brain wants is very, very different from what it used to be now, having been fortunate enough to spend, um, well, not too far off a half of my life now living amongst wild animals or animals within open systems. But zoos do play their role. I mean, they're helping these animals that would otherwise probably not have made it. And one of the things I've always tried to consider when it comes to captive environments is that if nothing else, people flood to go and see these creatures, and that raises awareness. And then hopefully people think, wow, I want to do something to help these animals in the wild. They're so beautiful, and I want to donate towards conservation, and I want to go on a trip to see them in the wild and understand more about their plight. So this sort of place is very important for raising awareness to those people who may otherwise not be given the same amount of information. Darkmane, you're totally against canned hunting of any kind, and in fact, hunting in general. I think the majority of us would agree with you there, Darkmane. Another canned hunting is a vile activity. Hunting itself, of course, there's arguments for both sides, but from a personal perspective, no, I have no interest in hunting. I've never hunted. I don't want to hunt. Um, and yeah, I bet everyone is entitled to their own opinions, I suppose. All right, but these cheetahs seem to be having a nice little afternoon nap on a Sunday. I don't blame them. Let's head over to Camelthorne for a while. Some more elephants enjoying the fresh water runoff.
This unfolds in front of you.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Best sighting I've presented, I found myself with wild dogs. We chased the dogs around, chased them around. They ate an impala, we got the end of that. Then another impala went into Gowrie Dam down the road there, and the wild dogs went around. Eventually the impala came close to the bank. One wild dog went and grabbed it and then just pulled it out and just did what wild dogs do. It was an emotional experience, but it was very, very special.
I've just had a little look at the camel situation, and I will admit to the fact that I'm using ChatGPT, so all of this will have to be verified, of course, but it sounds like the natural southern limit of the dromedary camels, northern Kenya, northern Uganda, northern Ethiopia, and some of Nigeria, Mali, Chad, and Sudan, but they have been introduced slightly further south. There are some in parts of central Kenya and small populations in northern Tanzania, apparently around Arusha and Simanjiro districts. Apparently, camels were introduced in the Northern Cape during the colonial period, mainly for police patrols in the Kalahari. Huh, who knew? There's a batch of hippos out on the bank. Milan, it is your birthday and you are 7 years old today. Happy birthday. I'm sure everybody is sending you good wishes and a great day ahead. And you'd like to see a 7-year-old elephant or would like to see what one looks like. Well, if we see a herd of elephants, I will try and identify one that I would imagine is approximately 7 years old. It's quite hard to know for sure unless in a captive situation where birth dates are recorded. That's a little bit easier. But out in the wild, it's very, very difficult to tell. We're going to be basing it really on size, but also taking into account that a 7-year-old male elephant will look slightly bigger than a 7-year-old female elephant just because they are larger in stature and they grow a little bit more quickly. But if we do see a nice breeding herd of elephants, Milan, I will try and point one out for you. Just going back to that conversation we were having about eyes earlier, of course, the eagles and vultures and raptors well known for having some of the most acute vision, but insects, of course, see the world very, very differently with their compound eyes and the ommatidia, which are all those little sections that make up the eyes. So they don't have the resolution that we do, but they can see levels of detail or levels of color, I should say, that we certainly can't. And they can process information so much more quickly, many more frames per second. So if a fly or a dragonfly or something went into a cinema and watched a movie, it would look like a flick book pretty much to us. Um, One of the most impressive eyes in the animal kingdom actually belongs to one of the shrimps. I'm trying to remember which shrimp it is now, but I think it's the mantis shrimp. Whereas we've got three color receptors in our eyes, red, green, and blue, mantis shrimps apparently have got 12 color receptors, including the ability to see in some of the ultraviolet spectrum, which is not unusual for insects. But I wonder what the world would look like if you had 12 color receptors instead of just three. Leopard Lover, I agree completely that you're saying this is what you love about Wild Earth, how questions can lead to facts we never thought of Googling. Absolutely. I mean, there is basically an infinite number of things that one could check, but you need a reason to go and check them in the first place. Mercedes Ben, you said you would like to see a random camel wandering past. Absolutely, that would be interesting. And Catherine has seen wild camels in Kenya. These zebras need to be a little bit careful. It's nice and shallow there, but we know for a fact there's plenty of good-sized crocodiles in this water body, but I think that water is shallow enough that the zebras are at least being lulled into a false sense of security. Of course, crocodile can stay hidden in very shallow water. Now, Kudzwa, you're saying a fun fact: the mantis shrimp can make the loudest sound in the animal kingdom. I'll take your word for it. I know they have an incredibly strong punch, and I also read somewhere a while back that they kind of protect themselves from the shock wave of that punch as well, because the resulting pressure waves would be enough to potentially damage them themselves. They strike so hard, but they sort of envelop themselves in a protective bubble of something to stop any potential backlash from their strong limbs. But yeah, weird things, mantis shrimps. They pop up from time to time in these unusual facts and figures within the animal kingdom. Okay, I think let's head back up to Oldonio. It sounds like we've got various species still enjoying the waterhole there. Nice big bull. Oh, we see below, looks like a gemsbok as well, or an oryx in the background. VC, you're bigging up the mantis shrimp as well. Glad we're putting the mantis shrimp on the map today. And Nkhatso, you're asking whether hippos can stay on the hot sun during the daytime. They can, and they do in winter. They like to warm up. The water is cold during the winter. And of course, very well known that their skin doesn't like to be in direct sunlight and can crack if it desiccates too much, but they also release those special secretions from the glands within their skin, that hyposudoric acid and norhyposudoric acid, which oxidizes with the air and turns a pink color, hence the famous blood sweat idea that we used to have that hippos produced. But that acts as a natural sunblock and also a very effective antibacterial for all of their cuts and scrapes that they get. Wow, Ivan, that is a question that needs some thought. If I could be a naturalist on another celestial body, what would I choose? I suppose being a naturalist kind of requires some life of some description, and that rather narrows it down in terms of our primitive knowledge at the moment of what is out and about. Based on what we know so far, I think Titan would be an interesting place to go. Saturn's biggest moon, the only moon with an atmosphere that has lakes and rivers and clouds and rain, but not of water. It's too cold for water. It's liquid methane and ethane, and there is a chance that organisms could survive in that sort of environment. Otherwise, I guess you're going to have to strap on, or I will have to strap on a scuba tank and go diving in the subterranean oceans of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, which, on paper at least, has everything that we believe is required for life. We've got no evidence of whether there is anything swimming around in the depths there, but we believe there are hydrothermal vents that provide energy. We have those in the bottom of our own oceans and ecosystems around them. As soon as you've got hot rocks, you've got active chemistry. And of course, you have the liquid medium, which allows primitive organisms to move around and absorb food from the water. So, yeah, otherwise, maybe that new exoplanet that was discovered, or its atmosphere was analyzed a couple of months ago. There was a big hoo-ha about we found life because we found evidence of what's called dimethyl sulfide in the atmosphere, which could have been produced by plankton because that's what happens here on Earth. And we found lots of it. It's thought to be an ocean world. So it's not impossible that there are great big, um, what would you call them? Great big floating rafts of plankton on that planet. You never know. But I think it's quite a few light years away, 100 and something light years away. So probably a little bit of time before we get to go and check it out for sure. But good question, Ivan. I will have to give it some more thought. But I think, yeah, if I'm going to naturalist something, there needs to be something there to naturalist. However, a geologist or a climatologist would have a field day on any of these other planets. Karen M, you're saying you saw a couple of camels near Springbok in the Northern Cape very unexpectedly. I'm not surprised. I'm guessing that is some of those introduced camels. Canine Girl asking about the zebra's digestive system. Yeah, exactly the same as horses. Canine Girl, so the hindgut fermenter with the enlarged cecum. Oh, is the elephant getting a little bit tetchy over his water? But yeah, very, very similar to that of a horse. Dark Main Lover, you're saying you love Old Donyo and you love seeing the oryx as well, one of your favourite antelopes. Mine too, Dark Main Lover, mine too. I think our southern oryx, or the Gemsbok, I think is a little prettier than the ones we get in East Africa, these Bisa oryx. And the fringe-eared oryx as well. Ours are a little bit more contrasty, black and white, a little bit more silvery. I think they're very, very pretty. But magnificent creatures nonetheless.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a citizen, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
This is live and interactive, so everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you'd like.
Smells like buttered popcorn. Nobody quite knows what for, but it is due to the release of a specific chemical compound, which apparently is the same one that we find in cooking popcorn and potentially freshly baked bread. And they also have a gland underneath their tail, and it's used as a type of scent mark. And it seems to be used in exactly the same way that leopards do as well. It's sprayed or left on the branches in terms of communication and territorial dominance. I'm sure to attract mates as well, because it seems to be more concentrated in males than females. But it'll be interesting to know whether it is the same chemical composition or very similar to that of the leopard from the description of the smell. If you have never smelt leopard scent mark, it does smell very similar to sort of buttery popcorn. So learning all sorts of interesting things. Never heard of a binturong before. Apparently it's one of only 2 mammals that has a completely prehensile tail, or 2 carnivorous mammals, sorry, that have a completely prehensile tail. And some other animal news that I also recently discovered, having spent quite a few months, about 8 months on New Zealand's South Island recently, it seems that very, very recently an entire new genus of jumping spiders has been found in those alpine regions of New Zealand's South Island as well. Very cryptically camouflaged, living on lichen-coloured rocks, so they have a sort of a greyish white appearance. And at least 10, possibly 12 new species, by the sound of it, have been discovered. So, an entirely new genus. Uria, I think, is the genus. Leopard Lover, you're wondering if we should not put out some real popcorn and see if we can attract any animals or confuse the animals. Yeah. I have no doubt that someone's tried it, Leopard Lover, and I'm yet to hear any positive results from it. But yeah, maybe we should be dropping popcorn behind us as we're driving around. Be like breadcrumbs, but we can leave popcorn shards. And a couple of you commenting that we haven't seen Kilimanjaro for a while. No, well, we have been in the wet season. The rains up in East Africa, so quite a few cloudy skies. Rhythmical contractions of that trunk again, but we're going to head over to the Olifants River for a while and see what's happening there. Ah, some more hippopotami. Uh, Karen, you're asking whether that waterhole in Kenya, Old Donyo, could completely dry up. Left to its own devices, I have no doubt that it would, Karen, during the dry season, but it is artificially maintained, it is pumped to ensure that the animals have available water. So it shouldn't dry up. If it did, it would be a mechanical failure or a human failure. But say left out in the wild, it would do, I'm sure, and that's the natural order of things. Of course, pumped waterholes are not naturally occurring unless it's coming from a natural spring somewhere. And that's one of nature's ways to avoid overgrazing and overutilization of the resources in the immediate area around waterholes. So in the winter months, where there is a decent supply of water, the animals tend to congregate. That causes an awful lot of feeding to be done in that area, awful lot of foot traffic. You might get other issues in terms of erosion because all the vegetation layer has been taken away. You potentially could end up with a sort of a eutrophication of the water if animals keep defecating in it and all the nitrogen and things builds up. But then we have the wet season, there are seasonal pans everywhere, all the animals spread out under less water pressure, and that gives these permanent water areas a little bit of a chance to recuperate and rehabilitate themselves. So that is important. If we have too many pumped water holes, the area around those pumped water holes never has a chance to recover, and we actually end up doing more harm than good. You see the nasty slashes on the side of that young hippo. Very normal to see. But again, no sign of any infection thanks to those secretions from the skin. Back to what we were saying about spiders. Shiv, you're saying that spiders are bad enough and you don't need more of them to develop the ability to jump. No, jumping spiders are very cute, though. I'm not a massive fan of spiders. A huge amount of respect for them, and I think they're fascinating animals, but it doesn't mean I want one on me, certainly. And yeah, jumping spiders is a potentially terrifying thought if they get massive. I'm still affected. I don't know if any of you remember the probably early 90s movie of Arachnophobia with Jeff Daniels. I still get the sort of the heebie-jeebies from that one from time to time, but I'm becoming a lot more tolerant of spiders. If they're in the house, I generally leave them be. They're doing good things. They're removing insects from the house on my behalf. And I've got two flatties or wall spiders that I see very commonly, one in the lounge and one in the bathroom. And to be honest, I've tried to catch them to relocate them on many of occasions, but they're just impossible to catch. They're so fast. Um, the bathroom flatty disappeared for a while, and I found him on the floor in the bedroom the other day, and he disappeared under the bed, which has made me a little uncomfortable. So I'm checking under the pillows and things each evening, just to be sure. One of my pet sort of peeves or pet hates is the thought of a spider crawling across me during the night. Thankfully, I've never had a severe incident. Found the occasional spider in the bed, but I have friends who've woken up to a baboon spider the size of the palm of their hand walking over their chest and things in the evening. So I'm hoping that that one doesn't happen to me, because you'll probably hear me scream wherever you are in the world if that was the case. Look how thick that hide is. You can see how deep some of those slashes are, but they don't look as if they've got through the skin itself. That skin can be up to maybe even as much as 2 inches thick in places. It's an awful lot of protection. And of course, hippo hide, hippo leather is considered some of the strongest in the world, and is available, I believe, from a commercial standpoint, but very much armor plated. Excellent insulation for cold water and dealing with each other's gnashing teeth, certainly. Cat fan, you're saying that a leopard would probably be able to tell the difference between its urine and buttered popcorn from us. Cat fan, I have absolutely no doubt that you're right. We are merely exploring potential avenues of amusement more than anything. But yes, just because we interpret it in such a way, it is quite possible that animals smell something completely different, and of course they will smell, if that is the right word, or interpret so many more levels of what is contained within that scent. We have a very primitive sense of smell because we don't have to use it as much as animals do. So uh, just take a dog. They see the world through smell as well. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Cat Fan. They would, to the leopard, they would smell completely different. Kaz, you're terrified of cockroaches. I'm sorry to hear that. I know a lot of people don't like them. Um, I don't personally find them terrifying. I may sneeze. Hold on. No, it's gone away for now. Um, yeah, no one really likes cockroaches, but I'm sorry you're terrified of them. And you say you live in a caravan in the tropics. So I imagine you have to deal with that on a fairly regular basis. But you're okay with spiders. Catherine is saying the spiders that you see are not the problem, it's the ones you don't see. Yes, it's the ones that occasionally just show up. My lounge flatty the other day, for example, I had a big piece of card that I had a project with, which was sitting behind the sofa. I pulled the piece of card out to move it last week, and the flatty had obviously decided that that was a good place to hang out as well, and proceeded to start to crawl up my hand, which caused me to flail around like a lunatic for a couple of minutes. And he disappeared under the sofa again. I would relocate them, but you just can't catch those things. They're like lightning. Catherine, you're saying human urine of people with untreated diabetes smells a bit like popcorn. That I can imagine. I know a person's breath, if they are diabetic as well, also has a particular scent to it that our noses will pick up as well. And so there have been many, many experiments done over the years to show that our ability to interpret smell is actually better than we realize. A lot of it happens subconsciously. We just see that in women sometimes synchronizing cycles and things. They've done experiments to make that happen. They've done experiments on men, not a particularly nice one, whereby they showed men pictures of a variety of women who were all deemed to be of equal attractiveness, and then they got those women to basically wipe a sort of a handkerchief under their armpits and then wipe that handkerchief onto their specific photograph, so it transferred some of their own pheromones, their own scent to the picture. And it seems that statistically men had a tendency to, of those photos, to choose what they deemed to be the most attractive one, were the ones that had been anointed, if that's the right word, from women who were in the midst of their cycle and therefore potentially more sexually receptive, and that unconsciously the men picked up on this. So there are various experiments that have just been done, but we just don't have the need for it anymore. It's very difficult to describe a smell to somebody. Dark Main Lover, you're saying these hippos look like boulders when they're lying down. They do from a distance, certainly. Giant insect larvae or something. K9 Go, you're asking whether can different species smell when an animal of a different species is in estrus. I don't believe so, K9 Girl. They may pick up that there's something unusual in the scent, but the best way I've ever sort of found to describe it is that if it's from a different species, that species lacks the necessary software in their brains to fully decode what they're smelling. So they may pick up a difference, but their brain would be likely unable to pick up the subtle nuances of it, and it would be unlikely to elicit a response in the smeller's body because it's not attuned to that particular scent pattern, if that's a way of phrasing it. I would imagine subspecies could, and possibly even animals within a similar genus, maybe, but I've never read a specific sort of report on something like that. But we do know that things like dogs can pick up biological changes or olfactory changes in our skin secretions. There are some people who have those dogs that if they're epileptic, that the dog is able to sense that an attack is going to happen imminently, and will react and will warn their owners that something's going to happen and that they need to take action accordingly. I mean, that's a proven fact. These dogs are able to do that, so they can obviously pick up the scent. Of course, whether they in their brains go, "Ah, that smells like someone about to have an epileptic fit," they will have been taught to respond to those changes without probably understanding specifically what it is they are smelling. But scent is the way the world really works. vision and hearing are secondary to scent in the animal kingdom most of the time.
I met this remarkable rhino bull, whose name is Samson, last year in a place of extraordinary beauty, history and story. I'm going back there to see him in October, and I think you should come with me to his mysterious mountain fastness.
My full name is Mpho Tikani. I grew up in Soweto. My first animal that I filmed said dog. Okay, no, wait. My first animal that I filmed, I think it was an impala. Best sighting ever, I would say it was actually this year, 2024. But it was this Cedric when we had Mulwati and TP on a warthog kill. I think we have to cut it.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Reserves that strongly suggest that you don't take any citrus fruit in with you because you're just putting a mark on your back. But no, you don't have to worry about what you're cooking. I wouldn't think, oh no, I'm not going to have impala or kudu steak tonight. I will have something different in case the local predator population is interested. So not really anything to be too concerned about there. Biggest problem is monkeys. I went to a place recently where I've been there in the past and I was camping and I was going to be there for 2 days and I had all my food in the tent. My tent was definitely zipped closed. I went for a little wander and when I came back, the monkeys had opened the zips on my tent and had utterly destroyed every last piece of food that I had brought with me, from packets of crisps to nuts to everything you could think of was just strewn around the tent, along with some other deposits that the monkeys had left behind. So yeah, they can be the real issue. I actually had to go and get padlocks for the tent because evidently those monkeys had learnt to open zips. Juliet, what do hippos smell like? They smell like hippos, I suppose, is the slightly sarcastic answer. I don't know if I could describe it. As I said, it's very difficult to describe the scent of a hippo. I normally associate them with sort of slightly sort of fetid water, but that's more the water you can smell. but in an area that's got lots of hippos and there's lots of deposits being made in the water, there is quite a unique scent given off. But I think we're just really sort of smelling their bodily secretions. That you can tell if a herd of buffaloes been past because there's a scent of buffalo dung in the air. But I don't know whether we could describe a hippo as having a specific scent. Do you reckon you're enjoying the young hippo snuggled up to his mum? We assume to be his mum, certainly. Dark Mane Lover, how many hours can hippos sunbathe without getting sunburn on their skin? I don't know. Dark Mane Lover, it's going to be dependent on the intensity of the sunlight, I suppose. But yeah, that secretion does a very good job, but quite whether or not there is a clock that they have to keep an eye on so they don't get burnt. I imagine when they get hot or they can feel their skin start to dry out, even with those secretions, they'll get up and go to the shade or get back into the water. But I couldn't put a finite number of hours on it for you, I'm afraid. Okay, let's check in at Madikwe and Tau Lodge, see what's happening at their waterhole. Oh, there's a couple of nice big crocs. An interesting different coloration between them, just regional variations. Both will be Nile crocodiles, of course. Looks like a nice bachelor herd of impala. The rutting season has pretty much come to an end now. Still hearing the occasional snort and grunt, but we're very much at the end of the breeding season for the impalas, so the males beginning to become friends again. Nothing to fight over now once all the females have fallen pregnant, so it makes a lot more sense for the males to hang around together as a group. Lovely little black crake in the bottom right hand corner as well. I love those birds. Their bright red legs and bright yellow beaks. But a really marked difference in the skin color of these crocodiles. So I assume the one on the right just has more melanin than the one on the left. Just be little genetic differences. Jody also mentioning the color. As I say, as far as I would be aware, it is just the amount of melanin, same way we on this planet have people with different amounts of melanin in their skin, but we're all the same species. But the one on the left is rather striking, certainly. It's rather tiger-like. Hello, little crate. I've always liked these birds, and they've got a very distinctive noise that they make as well. It's like nature said, how can we make a black bird more exciting? I know, let's give it bright red legs and a bright yellow beak and then a black body. can see those big splayed toes that we often see on wading birds, particularly things like the jacanas, well known for their massive long toes. Just helps them spread out their body weight and walk across this vegetation without sinking. It's like a duck, possibly a red-billed teal, all tucked up there as well, having a little Sunday doze. Two of them, I think. Hard to say for sure what they are, but I'm guessing red-billed teal. We often see those here at Tau. Well, speaking of birds, I should point out that I saw a new bird for my estate the other day. It was a beautiful sighting, actually. I was driving out to go out to Thorny Bush a couple of days ago, and a black sparrowhawk flew right across the road, probably only about 15 meters or so above the vehicle, so I got a really good look at him. And I think I'm right in saying only the second black sparrowhawk I've ever seen. So I was very, very excited for that one. Nearly swerved off the road. They've added him or her to my list. Always nice to see something you don't see every day, especially where you live. Just makes you realize there's a whole load of stuff going on. You need to open your eyes. As I always say, if you don't see something new every day in the bush, it's because you weren't looking hard enough. Another croc out of the water there. Sort of something in between the darker one and the lighter one. Looking at how long animals could hold their breath recently as well, and obviously, generally speaking, from a mammalian perspective, the bigger you are, the longer you can hold your breath. So some of the whales can dive for 2 or 3 hours. The world record holder, it seems, of a continued dive, i.e. where they're still active, in the animal kingdom, is the loggerhead turtle, with reports that it can stay underwater for up to 10 hours, which is pretty impressive. And of course, things like terrapins can brumate, so sort of reptile hibernation for months and months on end. But it's a bit different if you're cold-blooded. Then all your metabolism, of course, gets an awful lot slower, and you are able to utilize those oxygen reserves for a lot longer. Some animals, of course, take oxygen down with them. There are lots of insects and things that collect oxygen on their setae, those little sensory hairs, and can actually extract oxygen from that. And in some cases, for those terrapins, they actually have a special way of taking in some oxygen from the water through their cloacas, so through their bottoms. Basically, they can extract a little bit of oxygen from the water the same way that gills are used by fish. Karen, you want to know what crocodile poo looks like? It's kind of like a slimy whitish green when it comes out. Think of a hyena with a running stomach. So it's kind of like almost like a whitish green paste that comes out and then also goes white because of the calcium from all the bones that they have digested. It's not something you see very often, but I have seen it before. So yes, it's more like a sort of a sludge, I suppose, not particularly present. Ah, who have we got here? Is it a yellow-billed duck struggling to get something from beneath the surface? Kim, you're asking how do crocodiles attract partners for mating purposes? They do so by various different ways. Male crocodiles will give off a sort of a growly, rumbling type of sound. A lot of it is too low frequency, so infrasound, a bit like how elephants communicate with each other that we wouldn't be able to hear, but it will travel through the water. That can either attract females and also be a sign of dominance. And then, of course, what they're probably most well known for is the blowing of bubbles. Males apparently will, well, apparently they do, but they do blow bubbles and they kind of quiver and shake. Probably something to do with the seismic vibrations that the quivering creates. And the females, it seems, are attracted to a male who can blow bubbles, and even during the courtship process, he may blow bubbles at her as well. It's all rather cute. But nice to see some water birds as well. We've seen common moorhen, the crakes, red-billed teals, yellow-billed ducks. I'm trying to see who we've got there. Possibly some non-breeding weavers down for a drink. Leopard lover, you're saying I should look up the black-tailed native hen, a black bird with red legs from Australia. I will certainly have a look. Thank you, leopard lover. Now, who that is in the background, I can only assume that that is a juvenile black crake. It looks like a crake, but doesn't have the red legs or the red beak. You can just see possibly a bit of yellow there, like a yellow sear on the beak, but its general shape suggests crake. So I'm assuming that is a juvenile black crake. Let's see if I can check on my bird app for you. Immatures are generally supposed to be brown in colour. Olive brown above, dark grey below to blackish with a black bill. I'm still guessing that that is sort of somewhere in between a sub-adult black crake, but not seen one like that before. Dark May Love, you're asking about teeth. If a crocodile, a young crocodile, breaks their teeth, do they grow permanent teeth? Crocodile teeth are constantly being reformed or are constantly regrowing. They constantly lose teeth, constantly replacing teeth, and in a long, healthy crocodile life, they say that they could have up to, I think I'm right in saying, 5,000-6,000 teeth that they can have throughout their lifetime, constantly replacing ones that are broken or fall out. So, body constantly producing teeth for the crocodiles. At one time in their mouth, they've got between about 60 and 70 teeth. And apparently a single tooth can be replaced 40 to 50 times during the lifetime. So they are known as polyphodonts, so multiple teeth, continuously replacing their teeth. Anton Lyon, prior to asking, do hippos and crocodiles drink water even if they're permanently in water? Yeah, absolutely they do. It's a lot easier for them to get drink, obviously, bearing in mind their habitat, but everything needs water, so they will just drink water from where they are, I suppose. But yes, they do take in water to their bodies, certainly. Warthogs blending into this rather arid landscape now. Interesting to see the different colours on those warthogs as well. Some very grey ones who've obviously been in and around the mud. And some darker ones as well, using a different geology, different minerals within the soil from a different area of the reserve. Wildlife lady, you were saying lucky crocodiles, no dentists for them. Absolutely, I'm sure I'm not alone, but I'm not a fan of the dentist. I was bullied into going to the dentist last year, despite not having any problems. I know we're supposed to go for regular checkups, but I dislike dentists, so I tend to only go when I have to. And I'm ashamed to say I think that was my first trip to the dentist in 7 years. Um, but thankfully, there was nothing really too wrong. I had to get a little bit of general maintenance done, which cost an awful lot of money. Um, but preventative maintenance as opposed to anything else, thankfully. But I have less to worry about with dentists. I do have my four teeth at the front. Unfortunately, there's a bridge that I lost when I had a car accident when I was in my late teens, or was hit by a car, entirely my own fault, and knocked out three of my front teeth. So they had to be replaced. So I've got a few less teeth to worry about when going to the dentist. At least I know those ones are fine. Yeah, broke somebody's number plate on my face, which did not end well for me. And before somebody says so, yes, that's why I look the way I do. Everybody having a relatively quiet Sunday. All of these red-billed teals have adopted the pose. Beak tucked into the base of the back there, having a nice little snooze in the sun. Henan girl, you're asking whether the bright colours on beaks and legs and feathering Is there a reason why they happen more in some countries than others? Ken, I don't know. Regional variations, difference in the genetics and the pigmentation. Um, you tend to get a lot of brightly coloured birds within the sort of the heavily vegetated areas, probably to make it easier for them to find one another, but it's a trade-off. If you've got bright colours, then you're more easily seen by your predator as well. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's a country thing. It's more generally based on habitat and evolution, I think. Certainly, we see regional differences. The classic example, we saw the zebra up at Old Doño. They don't have the shadow stripe, whereas our zebras do. Thought to be in response to the fact that we have more vegetated bush here than you do in East Africa. It's generally open grasslands and yes, less requirement for brown within the white and the black. Of course, that's just a theory. And again, look at these crocodiles, one light, one darker, percentages of melanin within the skins. But whether or not it has any significant difference, of course, things that are generally lighter don't live so long. We see leucistic animals. I've seen leucistic bushbuck, leucistic eland, leucistic impala. And obviously, we have leucistic lions very occasionally as well, one of which we know very well. But traditionally, they don't do very well because they stand out very obviously to potential predators and are possibly of less interest to females in terms of breeding opportunities. But I don't know if I've ever seen two crocodiles lying next to each other with such a marked difference in coloration as these two. See that throat pulsing as it breathes. Very cool to see. All right, let's head back up to Kenya and Old Donyo for a bit. We've got 20 minutes or so left, still enough time for one ton to show himself if we're lucky. But we are most grateful for any elements, any elephants, or any animals for that matter that come down for a drink. It's been quite a slow Sunday. Maybe the animals know it's a Sunday today. Nobody seems in a great hurry to do anything, except maybe that crake that we saw, a couple of crakes whizzing around the water's edge. But everybody else seems to be very relaxed and lethargic today. Debbie, great minds think alike. You've just had a very relaxed time at the waterholes. Yeah, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday day, certainly. Ron, as far as I know, none of these cameras have any low frequency microphones set up to listen to the communications between the elephants. It would be amazing if actually there's a project for you, Ron. Maybe you'd like to sponsor it. If we could get an infrasound microphone to hear it, Aldonia, especially with the number of elephants that come through, it'd be very interesting to hear their conversations. I have no doubt that there are many set up across the world conducting that kind of research, but I don't know of any on these cameras that we have access to where one could listen in to that sort of thing. But certainly they do exist, those microphones for listening in to the animals, those frequencies that we are not privy to. Lovely chance to appreciate the texture of the elephant's skin there. All those cracks and crevices that are very important to help cool that animal, spraying water, spraying mud, and they get into those cracks and crevices and things just stay damper and cooler for longer. And even under a microscope, the elephant's skin itself has that sort of patterning on it, and little pits and troughs and valleys and peaks. So even on a microscopic level, that skin is wrinkly, for want of a better word, just allowing water to collect and keep the skin moist and cool where possible.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari.
She's using her tail like a monkey.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Just as much done through posturing and body language, certainly. We see it in antelopes, a lot of lateral displays where antelopes will stand side on to each other, just showing off their general bulk and the potential ability to cause damage, showing off their size. Not to mention things like tails and ears and eyes and teeth. All of these things mean so much more to animals, but we pick up on each other's faces and body language as well, often subconsciously. But you can tell if somebody is receptive or not receptive. Something as simple as arms folded and the eyes and frowning versus smiling, but there's so much more, even micro expressions. There was a great program called Lie to Me, a series with I can't remember the name of the actor now, but that was very interesting, as they would look at the micro expressions of faces. Silly Gilly, you've mentioned war. What's happened there? Wow, something gave those Ellies a fright. Silly Gilly's mentioned Yorkshire pudding as well. Absolutely, got to have Yorkshire puddings. Traditionally with roast beef only, but I've become rather partial to Yorkshire pudding with roast chicken as well. I don't know what upset those elephants though. They had a very strong reaction to something. Whether it was a strange sound, maybe some human movement. I don't see anything coming in from the peripheries. Maybe one jumped and that made the other one jump and they fed off each other's emotion. Zebra doesn't seem too bothered. Beautiful markings, like a little white spot on the cheek in the middle of the black stripe there. It's rather nice.
Join me, Andrew Wistenholm, for an indescribable 6-night stay in the beautiful Albany of the Eastern Cape at Amakhala Game Reserve. Now, this trip is going to be action-packed with a lot of storytelling, adventure, as well as the opportunity to make everlasting memories. We'll be exploring the best of Amakhala by staying at 2 luxury lodges, which will be the perfect blend of comfort as well as wilderness. Book your spot today and let's get ready to explore the wild beauty of Amakhala.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
My full name is Emojis Tusitikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I went to camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
We are here with a male leopard.
Okay, everything very sedate up here at Old Donya. Let's head back to Tau. A menacing figure of a partially submerged crocodile sneaking through the shallows. Rhythmical undulating tail just propelling him forward very, very slowly, although I would think quite a good chance he's crawling along the bottom there in hindsight. Disappearing with hardly so much as a ripple. Oh, well, there's a bigger one. And just like that, a large crocodile vanishes. That's how you get into trouble. So never assume that there is no crocodile just because you can't see one. Certainly does not mean that there is one there. Well, we're almost out of time, unfortunately. Only a couple of minutes left. Today has gone surprisingly quickly, considering we haven't had a great amount of activity, and obviously something about a nice relaxed Sunday. Hopefully we've just all taken it in our strides and enjoyed a peaceful trip around the cameras for the last couple of hours. I see Wildlife Lady, you're saying thanks for the show. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And Penelope Kenyon saying a lovely lazy Sunday. And Harriet Hodgkin thanking everyone for a relaxing time live at the Waterhole. And what a great way to take a break from all the madness happening in the world. Absolutely. Harriet Hodgkin, I couldn't agree with you more. There's an awful lot of things happening throughout the world, some terrible things at the moment. So this is a great opportunity to just defrag a little bit and enjoy it. Enjoy the natural environment, bits that we haven't messed up, that we don't ruin by arguing with each other over various things. But whatever your plans are for the rest of this Sunday, I hope it goes swimmingly, rather like this crocodile. And don't forget, of course, to join our teams this afternoon for Sunset Safari. I know there was some leopards seen this morning. Hopefully there will be some more rosettes as well. And some other fabulous sightings. But thanks very much for joining me. Thanks to all the team for making this possible, for you for making this possible. And yeah, we will catch up with you again soon. I'll be back tomorrow, 12:30, for another 2-hour odyssey around the cameras. But until then, happy Sunday, everybody, and we'll catch up soon.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. Today we will be going on an adventure through some of South Africa's most spectacular nature havens. Our locations are diverse and unique and are at the forefront of ecotourism and conservation. Amidst fantastic scenery and incredible wildlife, we'll be finding out all the interesting facts about the flora and fauna whilst bathing in the sheer beauty of Africa.
So everybody, just going on a nice, slow little bumble, little bushwalk through the wilderness. Now we're going to